Everybody, welcome to another installment of Show to View with Mike G, the show of life, the show of traveling around the world as a child, Time Out, Austin, Drimbuie, William Grant & Sons, and so much more with today's guest, Erin Kuschner, editor at Time Out, Austin, the newest addition to publications here in the city, a print version, online version, and a great source to find out what things are happening inside of Austin to eat and to drink. Erin and I got to sit and chat after the Time Out Austin Bar Awards 2017, discuss the winners, discuss the panel, but really talk about her career in writing, how she has loved to write, loved to eat, loved to drink, and capture all of these experiences on the page, and had an illustrious career in the writing industry, and now joins us just as of March here in Austin, Texas, writing about this wonderful scene we've got here. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this great chat with Erin Kuschner of Time Out Austin.
Last year, is that every time we do them, we have people, bartenders who come up to me like, this is so exciting because I get to see all of my friends in one place. And so since it's such an industry focused event, it's just like everyone's buddies, and
everybody knew each other in that room. Yeah,
so that was really cool. And that's my favorite part, I think.
How do you feel about the venue? I thought it was a lovely kind of new, modern.
Yeah, I like the venue a lot. When I first moved here, it was South by, and I went to it was kind of crazy. And I went to an event there, and I was like, man, if we could at some point use this venue as a space for a Time Out event, that would be sweet. And I was super happy that we got it. So.
And it's just down the street from where because you work out at this building?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like,
so
you can go and check it out anytime you want.
I know, it was great, yeah.
Has the transition into what is stifling heat in Austin, has that been a hard one for you?
Oh man, I hate to be that person who complains, who just moved here.
It's okay when you're prompted.
No, very true. And the worst part is that I moved here without AC in my car, and I've just been putting it off, and so it's getting to the point where I really have to get that fixed because it's a little intense. But
some people, like if you live in San Francisco, which I think you lived in California.
I lived in San Francisco for 3.5 years.
Work after college, I think, right? Like
yes.
Extended settings, which we'll talk about actually here shortly. But there it's okay, so they don't get it.
They
right?
Don't
like
get it.
You don't need AC. You're fine. It's pretty cool.
Totally fine.
You actually could die.
There was one point last weekend when it was like 100 degrees, and I was walking around and I was feeling a little woozy, and I was like, oh, this is a health hazard.
Yeah, it is. It's very treacherous.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, at the event last night with the ceiling fans and all of the nice cocktails, I think things remained pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great.
When you talk about the panel and the judging panel, I know a couple people, friends that were on the panel. How did you go about assembling such an assorted crew of people and personalities?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most important parts, I guess, in assembling a panel like that is you have people from very different aspects of the industry. So bartenders, bar owners, bar writers. We had Jessica, who just started up her own absinthe company. So it's important to get a lot of different perspectives who are contributing towards, that discussion and talking about what's going on in the bar industry, because if you have just bartenders there, they obviously know a ton of what's going on,
insular,
but it's it's pretty insular. So you want to get as many different perspectives as you can, and I think we definitely got that.
Did you find that the crowd and the vibe's different than the event you threw out in LA?
There's some similarities and some differences, but I one thing that is true across both cities, and I think all the cities that we do, is there's such a friendly atmosphere. It can be a little competitive, but for the most part, everyone's a family. Everyone's rooting for each other. There's no like, oh, I can't believe they won and I didn't kind of thing going on.
Well, it's weird. Don't you think that's almost contrasts what popular belief would tell us?
Yeah.
Right? That everybody's so competitive, and obviously we're just separating each other, right?
Right.
But it's great to hear that you find this kind of common thread of community.
Yeah. And I think in part, too, it's, a lot of bartenders have worked at, different bars. And so they have friends at other bars, and they're rooting for them, and they're rooting for their former place of employment to succeed. And they all, go out and have their own favorite bars. So
rising tide,
it's just,
right?
Yeah, one big family, and it's great.
Have you noticed that as you've been in town just a few months now, since March, that you've been pretty adopted and embraced by the culinary community, the cocktail community?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's another, I think, big difference. Everyone in Austin is so unbelievably friendly and kind, and you meet them once, and they're like, oh, let's get together and go out for drinks at some point, or give me your number. Like, I'd love to show you around town. And it's after just one meeting, and LA is a friendly place, but I feel
cliquish,
like
right?
It's a little cliquish, And when I moved here, I was just so appreciative and honestly pretty blown away by just how great people are here and friendly. And so,
do you find that the vibe of the same kinds of places you were visiting in LA, whether it's a cocktail establishment or a restaurant, how's the vibe differ, or is it the same?
They're both very casual places, but casual in a different way.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that the other day, and I'm not totally sure how to describe it. I think in LA, it's more like calculated casual.
Interesting.
So, there's like a casual vibe, but it's very planned out. And like, we're going to make this place super casual by using this silverware and these pillows and this color scheme and everything.
Yeah.
And here I feel like it's just a little bit more naturally casual, sort of. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make sense. It's not been whiteboarded out.
Yeah,
It's just kind of, how should this feel?
Right, exactly. So that's a little bit, and of course, like, just everywhere having a patio is awesome.
Well, back to the earlier point, right?
Exactly. Maybe not right now, but
to a degree.
As long as they're fans, it's great. So
yeah, it works pretty well.
Yeah.
Well, so there's a lot to talk about in terms of journalism and food writing and all of this, which we'll get to, and how you kind of ended up in this role with Time Out. But this all begins. Where did you grow up? I was unable to kind of see.
I actually kind of have a little bit of a unique upbringing. My dad works for the Foreign Service.
Okay.
So I grew up overseas in a lot of different countries. I lived in Beijing, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Kazakhstan, Hungary, and then a few places in the U.S., and never really more than 3 to 4 years. So I moved quite frequently.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was great.
Keeps things fresh, I imagine.
I'm sorry?
Keeps things fresh.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And actually, that's kind of part of where my love of food came from, is just I grew up with so many different cuisines in my life.
Yeah, I'm very
envious.
And
trying new things, and so that's kind of like where that all started. But after, I graduated from high school, I moved to Boston, went to Boston College, and was there for 4 years.
So it begs the question, so a couple things. So first, moving that much, I did the same thing, and regrettably in the States. So I was just doing it globally. But you have to count on yourself. You have to constantly, because the only thing that stays steady in that case is your family.
Exactly.
So socially, you're making new friends all the time. It's hard to build those bonds that they probably had for decades. And for you, is that maybe where writing came into the forefront as a means to kind of express yourself, or at least feel some kind of intimacy with something?
Yeah, that's definitely one way to look at it. I was always a big reader and writer.
Yeah.
But I really loved writing about the places I was in and kind of making sense, sort of every place that I lived in through writing.
What does that mean, making sense of?
Well, when you move around, especially in the diplomat world, sort of, you're a foreigner, but you're also supposedly, you're kind of trying to immerse yourself in this culture, but you don't really have a place in either one of those facets.
It's a good point. You're
sort of
outside looking in kind of thing?
Yeah, so they call it actually being a third culture kid.
Oh.
And a third culture kid is when there's the culture of your parents, there's the culture of the country that you're living in, and then there's your own kind of culture because you don't really fit into either one of those.
Wow.
So
You're
there's
displaced in a way,
there's this
aren't
whole
you?
like movement of third culture kid
That's amazing.
worlds. But yeah, so I think writing definitely helped me out with that sort of, and you know, figuring out where I fit in sort of, and how I was moving through all those experiences.
When you think about how you probably had options anywhere, and I know Boston College is a great college, but why did you pick? Why was that the place for you, Boston?
I moved to New Hampshire when I was 8 years old, and I lived there from when I was 8 to about 12. And there's an Air Force base near there where my dad worked for a little bit, and so that's why we were there. And we would always take trips to Boston, and Boston for me had this very idealized New England university culture that was what I had kind of always read about as, you know, a very like American thing sort of. And so that really appealed to me. And just being in New England was something that I wanted at the time. So
It's a lovely spot.
It
and
is.
You talk about food, man. Food and rich culture and architecture and stuff.
Yeah, it was great.
But it feels like, you know, some people, when they come from a small town, which is the antithesis really where you came from, college becomes this place to act out. But for you, it seems like you probably would have had some level of maturity, and just going to college is not that different. I mean, did you let it all out?
What
so to speak?
What happened was I had the biggest culture shock of my life.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, I had never, had moved around so much and had culture shock in different forms, but moving, being away from your family at that age is already a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Especially if that's the only stable thing that you've kind of had.
That's a good point.
And then going into this world where for the first time in a long time, I looked like everyone else. I spoke the same language as everyone, but I could not relate at all. And so I had this massive culture shock, and I hated hate, that's a strong word. I had a really hard time adjusting for the first couple of years, so much so that I decided to spend my junior year abroad in Rome for a whole year.
Wow.
I just wanted to get away for a little bit. And then by the time, my senior year rolled around, I was feeling a little bit more stable, but it was a hard transition.
Yeah, I mean, these are the kinds of things that compose us as people, you know what I mean? These kind of nuanced ways that we were brought up, and it's like, oh, maybe I'm not that social because of this, or I just don't get other people.
Right.
But I'm used to interviewing typically people that are in the hospitality industry, so they have this innate ability to care and be empathetic and give to so many people. Whereas the creative people that have met authors, it's very, not to say you're introspective, but when it comes to being social, meeting new people, connecting with people in this humane way, how did that kind of come across when you went to college?
It's funny because I'm certainly an introvert, and I have a hard, I for a long time I had a hard time being social, but both, going off to college and then also this job has just kind of forced me into this extroverted introvert kind of role that I never really envisioned would happen. Yeah.
You have to interface with the media now.
Oh, yeah. All that. And I like it. I really do. It's just, I still get nervous every time. I still...
we did well on stage last night.
Thank you, but I was a little
insanely
nervous.
frightening?
Yeah. It was a little scary.
So ultimately, is it safe to say that you pursued writing throughout your time, both abroad in Rome and then at Boston College?
Yeah, I've always wanted to be a writer. It's just, I've never really thought about doing anything else.
That's amazing.
And for a long time, from as early as I can remember, I wanted to be a food and travel writer.
Yeah.
And so, after school, I graduated in 2008, which was the worst time to graduate. And the recession hit, and I moved to one of the most expensive cities in the country. And I couldn't get a job in writing or publishing for a long time. So I worked as a study abroad counselor, kind of.
Yeah.
And then I moved to LA, and I kind of started freelancing. I worked for Pasadena Magazine, and then I worked for a a B2B magazine for a little while.
Business. Oh, yeah, yeah.
But I always love food writing, and so I did that on the side. I contributed to Clean Plates, which published reviews of like vegan and vegetarian restaurants, which is hilarious because I'm not a vegan or vegetarian.
Ask, yeah. That'd be real tough moving around all the
time. But I loved it, and I did my own writing, and I contributed to a couple other publications, and when I came across the position for a restaurant and bars editor for Time Out Los Angeles, because Time Out is such a global company, I had every city I lived in abroad always had a Time Out, and I read it religiously, and so I was just so excited there was an opportunity to do that in LA.
When you think about the things that inspire you creatively from writers perhaps, what kinds of things do you and can you go back to that you can always find some kind of inspiration in?
Well, I like writing, so I'm big on writing nonfiction pieces, and particularly like personal essays and memoir type writing.
Yeah.
And so writing can be a very selfish act. Your inspiration comes from your own life, yourself, what you keep thinking about, what you keep going back to. Obviously, your surroundings influence you, the places you lived, your upbringing and everything. But for me, it's I don't know, just the kind of emotions and experiences that I think everyone has that I can draw from and kind of help relate to people, but really just like my own experiences, which sounds, sort of obvious, but
do you think is it hard for you to have that original voice, to have that clear characteristic voice of your life?
Harder than
people that maybe are trying to find a voice. That in a way that the writing becomes a journey to find their voice, whereas it seems like maybe you have a clear sense of how you want to come across on the page.
Oh, I don't know. I think it's all about kind of experimenting when you're finding your voice. And I think, for when it comes to my personal writing, I think I'm definitely still kind of exploring my own voice and how I want to come across. But it takes time.
It does take time. Are you going to pursue a novel at some point?
I hope so. At some point, yeah. That's something I've definitely always thought about. But we'll see.
Yeah, the great American novel. I think it's always on everybody's radar.
Yeah.
Maybe the great American haiku. That's about where that's about my level.
Maybe I'm going
for
the great American memoir. That would probably be it. Yeah.
There you go. So live a life worth living. Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting when we talk about food writing, and you talk about 2008, which obviously was a very difficult time for the writing industry and the publishing industry in general. You've been in it almost probably as a writer a while, but with Time Out, for quite some time now. So have you seen the quality of writing about food and cocktails? Have you seen it change and maybe become more paparazzi-esque? Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's definitely an element to that, but in some ways, I think it's also gotten a lot better as a reaction, sort of to that. It was extremely exciting starting kind of my food writing career in LA at the time that I did, because LA right now and the food scene in LA right now is on everyone's mind. I mean, chefs are flocking to LA because it's just, not only is the produce there incredible, but it's also a lot easier to open a restaurant in LA than it is in New York.
Space, right?
Cheaper. And so that was kind of all happening when I kind of first started food writing. So it was a really exciting time. And I think it inspired a lot of writers to maybe, if they weren't focusing on food before, to kind of switch over into that arena and start writing about what was going on in that cultural sphere.
Right.
There's definitely, you have people who want to read all about rainbow unicorn toast or whatever.
Just tell me who's the best at this one thing, please.
Right, and there's that too, which I think, is necessary. People are looking for the best things to do and the best food to eat and the best avocado toast and what's trending and everything. And I think that's just as important as, writing about, different kinds of like endangered species that certain restaurants are using or shouldn't be using. So there's both sides of the coin, but I think what's really exciting now is that the more people that get into food writing, the more voices are heard, the more angles you get on different topics.
So you get more penetration into a topic.
Yeah.
Some deeper actual education.
Right.
Maybe. It's a weird thing because because LA is so big, obviously the roof and the capacity and market saturation has much a larger hinges, if you will.
Right.
Where Austin is quite small. And even in the short period of time you've been here, can you sense or somehow see the writing on the wall a little bit that perhaps our stomachs are going to be bigger than our eyes and we may have an industry that can't actually be supported here?
Yeah, I don't want to speak too soon.
No, of course, of course.
And I'm definitely still getting to know the city, and I think there's a lot about Austin's food scene that I still need to learn.
Yeah.
I will say that the turnover here seems to be pretty on par with other cities that I've lived in. Restaurants closing shortly after they open, or just the continual revolving door of restaurants coming and going.
Yeah.
There is certainly less space to spread out.
Right. That's all the only way, really. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that makes me wonder. And again, I don't know, enough yet about this, but whether there will be more dining destinations surrounding Austin than there are right now. Maybe people will be kind of flocking more to hill country, sort of, to go out and spend their money there. But yeah, I'm still kind of waiting to
see how it plays out.
Yeah.
It's perceptive of you, though, that it is a revolving door.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult for people that I'm close to in this hospitality industry to find people that are talented and that want to work hard.
Right.
And as part of this change in food as a piece of pop culture, because in a way, I love the Food Network, don't get me wrong. I love Chopped. I'll always watch it no matter what. But it does, in a sense, give this, no pun intended, bite-size engagement with people into the larger celebrity of chefs.
Right.
Do you see more of the star chefs and the star tenders, that kind of mentality and that kind of coverage bubbling up here since you started writing in this industry?
Not as much, actually,
really?
as I thought I would. And maybe it's just because in LA it is certainly, the chef stardom there is just insane, massive.
Right? It may have even started. There in New York, Wolfgang Puck might have,
Yeah, it definitely did. And through this job and writing our first issue, I got to talk to a lot of really great chefs, and I was very pleasantly surprised at just how down to earth and humble they were, and not letting anything kind of get to their heads. And last one I tried was Rene Ortiz at Laundrette.
Oh, yeah.
He's a badass. He's awesome. So yeah, I feel like chefs here are pretty cool and down to earth and humble and doing their thing, and yeah.
Very much like Austin in itself.
Yeah.
When I was in Shanghai a few years ago, I used Time Out exclusively to find out where to drink and where to eat, and it proved to be an amazing resource and of a different level of quality, a higher level. So as someone that's been familiar now with two markets for the magazine, and that's the right way to call it, publication.
Yeah.
What do you guys stand for? If you think about the term charter, right? What's the stuff that you say, Time Out really is emblematic of this? These are the things that we want to achieve better than anybody else.
I think the main goal always at Time Out has just been, not only giving advice on where to go, what to drink, what to do, but in a voice that's like talking to your buddy. We want to be your friend. We want to show you the town through our eyes. We want to be there kind of with you and give you the best time possible.
Yeah.
And we're all about fun and having fun and showing you the best parts of the city in the most fun, entertaining way possible, and just really making sure that you don't leave a city having only experienced like the touristy spots,
Yeah.
but like a local, like, you know, we want to show you all the hidden places we love. We want to, you know, tell you about the cool people that we know in the city that we'd love for you to meet.
Mm-hmm. A finger on the pulse.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's, you know, that's, you bring up a good point about like hanging with your buddy.
Yeah.
A lot of the spots, they kind of sterilize the writing a little bit. And you guys make it inclusive instead of exclusive. Because sometimes writers, when you talk about maybe speakeasy type bars, well, there are a few here in Austin, but it's like, oh, and it's really hard to get into. It's secret, blah, 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 blah. But you guys are like, doesn't matter. This is where you want to go because it's going to be fucking good.
Right. And
know?
even when we do tell you about kind of like the more hidden spots, sort of, we want to tell you this spot is hidden, but we're telling you about it because it's worth your time going there.
Yeah.
And this is how you can get in. And this is why you need to go there. And we're not just telling you this because it's not just hidden. It's not just cool because it's hidden.
Right.
It's hidden because, like, I don't know.
You guys...
It's awesome, and you should check it out.
That's the best reason. Instead of saying, well, I know about it, we're like kind of ahead of the curve here, guys, and kind of taking yourselves too seriously. It never felt like that with the way that you guys wrote, the tone. And I think that that's something that gives you staying power because people don't feel warded off by it.
Yeah.
You want to, it's like, let's do this together.
Yeah, we're a community.
Absolutely.
And again, kind of going back to the bar awards, that's like, I don't know. It's a family feel. It's one of the only job I think that I've had where my coworkers are my friends and family, and we kind of extend that to our readers. We want them to be our friends and family too, and just enjoy the city as much as we do, and
it's amazing.
Come along with us, yeah.
How did you guys end up partnering with William Grant & Sons? They've been a great partner. They
have been a great partner. They're fantastic brands. You know, when we were talking with, because Vance was, you know, on our panel too, and I was, at that point I was telling all of our panelists who all was going to be on the panel with them, and I was telling them Vance from Drambuie would be there, and everyone was like, oh my God, I love Drambuie.
Yeah.
We just, you know, we love partnering with people that we respect, and we love their product, and they're fun and hilarious, as you saw last night at
I know,
the awards.
No, they really are cool. Like if I was writing a sitcom,
yeah,
I think I could pick up 5 of those guys.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then I would have the perfect Big Brother kind of thing where they would just give me every bit of comic levity that you need, you know. But it's been, you know, really getting good to see Time Out come into Austin. It was a no-brainer, obviously.
Yeah.
Any big new projects or new steps for you guys now as new kids on the block here in town?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be continuing to put out our quarterly magazine. Our first issue came out in May. We have our next issue coming out in August. So we're just really excited about, you know, continuing to put those out every quarter. We have events on the horizon that are going to be happening. Some rooftop pool parties, some tasting events. So that's something that we're really excited about doing. And then just more awards and bringing the community together like last night.
Yeah. You guys did it quite successfully. It was a great vibe.
Thanks.
You know, it's about the vibe.
Yeah.
And it's a great group of people, and it was good that you rallied them together.
Thank you. I think everyone had a great time.
Absolutely great spots too. Mescalera, Tobola. I mean, come on, Becky, Drinkwell, Roosevelt Room, all great mates. You know, so great to see them recognized.
Cool.
So I've got just 2 more questions for you. And this one is, I'm really interested to see how you react to this question, but let's say you're at your favorite bar in the world, doesn't matter where. You're grabbing some sip of something you quite enjoy, and you can sit there and have a conversation and drink with anybody, living or deceased. Who might you like to just sit there and just have a conversation, get to know them, and perhaps ask them every possible question that comes to mind?
Wow. Oh, man.
And of course, it's one of those dynamic answers, because tomorrow you may be watching a series of Alfred Hitchcock movies and think, oh, I'd love to talk to him. But what strikes you now?
Wow. Oh, man, this is a great question, and one that I probably should think about a little bit more. I am just going to go very personally and say my grandmother.
Yeah?
Because she was my favorite person in the world, and I wish that I had asked her more about her life. And there's a lot about her that I don't know. And she also was a super classy lady who I feel like I would have loved having a martini with.
Yeah.
She never took a photo without lipstick on, and I feel like just sitting next to her with like her lipstick and her martini and just her glamness would be amazing. And just asking her more about her life that I didn't know.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
See, I want to have a drink with her too.
Yeah.
Some of those things was like,
Great
yeah,
lady.
it sounds like a great lady.
Great lady.
Well, last question, because of course it's getting hot outside and there's lots of great cocktails to be had. But
Yeah.
what are you in the mood to drink these days?
I went to the Austin Hotel
Yeah.
on Congress a couple days ago and had their charcoal popsicle in a beer.
Oh,
It's like
wow.
a little shandy.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal, and just the charcoal popsicle was incredible, and the whole combination was really great. And I think it was like 100 degrees that day, and it was the best way to cool down.
It's perfect.
So that's kind of what I'm craving right now.
Drinks with a popsicle.
Yes, drink some popsicle.
No wiser words have been spoken yet. That is
Thank you.
for certain. So, Erin, it's been really good chatting with you. Learning
chatting with you.
more, talking about Time Out, the Bar Awards, and everything. And you guys are doing cool stuff.
Thank you.
I want to see more, and I will see more. I'm really excited for what you're bringing.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of great content coming out every day, and there's a lot of really exciting stuff coming on the horizon too.
Amazing.
Thanks.
We'll keep on doing the good work, Erin.
Thank you.
Great
Appreciate
chatting.
it.
Thank you.
Well, there we have it. Erin Kuschner, editor at Time Out Austin, the most recent arrival into this fine city of ours, talking about things to do, places to go, what to drink, and what to eat. A great publication that I've used all around the world, when I'm traveling. It is a trusted source, a reliable source of intel when I'd like to get a great cocktail, or how the hell I move a bookcase to go to the speakeasy behind it. So it's a great thing. And it's, again, really lovely to meet someone who loves writing. They love what they do. They were meant to do this. This was not a jagged path for Erin to get into Austin and write and be the editor at Time Out Austin. Is a very clear path and something she's devoted to. And I suspect that there may eventually be a book in the works, a nonfiction book describing her life, her experiences, and probably some nice little mysterious things that we didn't talk about here. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter how much you are highly anticipating the new film from Edgar Wright, Baby Driver, which I cannot wait to see this Saturday, finally, or if you're thinking, man, I really do love live orchestras. They're a great thing. Please keep dancing.